and welcome to the Business on 2019 Market Conference Call presented by Mr. Abhimanyu Sofat. As a reminder, all participant lines are in the listen-only mode. We will be taking questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing 0, then star on your telephone keypad. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Abhimanyu Sofat. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this conference call as well as a webinar which has been hosted by IIFL Securities. The reason for this particular conference call webinar is to tell you about what actually happened in this particular budget, what would be the impact of the same on the election which are coming, and how would this particular budget impact your own personal budget and finances. So let us start with a broader view of what actually happened in this particular budget. The main headline of this particular budget was that the fiscal deficit number that the government has talked about for this particular year is 3.4%. Now, this is better than what the street was expecting. Street was expecting close to around 3.5%, though the government last year had talked about a fiscal deficit number of 3.3%. Next year as well, the targeted number is 3.4%. Again, people are concerned about that number, and we already saw that in the debt market, the bond market, the yield had spiked up by close to around 11 basis points post the budget announcement. Now, the reason why the bond market took the budget fiscal deficit number a bit negatively was because there is going to be an additional debt of close to around 35,000 crore being taken for meeting the gap. Now, so those are some of the concerns that are there on the fiscal side. If you dwell a bit more in detail about the same, what clearly we are seeing is that the GST collections have been lower than 1 lakh crore. So this year, the government is talking about 97,000 crore at the average number of GST. In fact, in the last month, it did cross after the, significant amount of reduction happened in terms of GST items in terms of tax rate. We did cross 1 lakh crore of number for GST in the last month. But for overall, somewhere close to around 1 trillion rupees would be the shortfall in terms of GST. How the government is planning to make good of that, it is trying to, get additional amount of money in terms of direct taxation, as well as, reduce the share of the states in order to match the fiscal. So some worry is there that this 3.4% fiscal deficit number, which has been talked about, may spike up to maybe 3.5%. Now, coming to what exactly is that the government has provided to all of us. In case of farmers, for farmers who have holding till around 2 hectares, which goes to roughly close to around 5 acres, the government is promising them around 6,000 rupees per annum, which will be applicable from this year only from the December quarter. For this overall expenditure that the government would be doing would be close to around 75,000 crores. So that means close to around 12.5 crore household will get a benefit of that. If I look at from an election point of view, if one assumes that there are 4 people in a household, close to around 50 crore people can get positively impacted by that. So this segment of population would be close to around, if you look at the overall strata, they would be close to around 50% of the overall population. And they are right now close to around 15% of the overall income that has been generated in terms of the GDP for the country. So if you look at it from a perspective of, how much will be the impact of the same in terms of, the overall growth in terms of consumption. So then that number would somewhere be close to around 3 to 4%. That would be our rough cut estimate. Now, in addition to that, for the non-agriculture labor The government has talked about giving 3,000 rupees of pension. That also is something which is likely to add to the popular sops from the government, and which can really help the government, improving its electoral chances going forward. From a sectoral perspective, if we talk about the agriculture, we will see continuous increase in terms of interest subvention, and in fact interest subvention has been added in case we see that the farmer is working on things like aqua fisheries. So there have been some increase which has happened there. So some stocks, for example, something like uh, Avanti feeds, those kind of stocks, or Apex food. Those are the kind of stocks which could benefit from this particular measure of the government. Since this was not a complete, budget, there was not too much in terms of sectoral impact, except for, I think so, in case of real estate, we did see that there has been a significant increase which will happen in terms of demand going forward. The reason for that is, one, for the developers, they have been given an additional year uh, for them. For what typically happens was that, when they start with a project and there's some unsold inventory which is there, so after a year they needed to pay back, they need to pay some tax, assuming there's some rental coming from those unsold inventory of flats that they had. Now that has been extended by a year, which is a very big positive for the real estate sector. Secondly, assuming that I had one house and where I was staying, and now I want to sell that house and buy two houses. So in case my capital gain is still the amount of 2 crore rupees, I will not be charged any tax. So that is something which is a very positive for home buyers. So that is an additional benefit which is there for the real estate sector. Now, if you look at other sectors, broadly we see that on the rural side there'll be an increase impetus because of these measures which government is talking about, with increased allocations to the usual suspect of Pradhan Mantri Vikas Yojana, and those kind of things. The critical thing is that on the personal income tax side also, which I'm sure a lot of you would be interested in, we have seen a significant increase in terms of benefit. The targeted number of people would be close to around 30 million, which is 3 crores. The additional benefit which could come to us as consumers could be potentially close to around 18,500 crores. Uh, so what the government has said is that if your taxable income is till the level of 5 lakhs, you will not be charged income tax. So roughly the benefit would be close to around 12,500 rupees. So let us assume a case that your income is, say, 10 lakh rupees. So the question that you would want to know is, can I ensure that I'm tax free? That's a very important question that anyone would have in their mind. So let us look at it. Is it possible? So first of all, you can take 1.5 lakh rupees advantage of Section 80C for in addition to the NPS benefit of close to around 50,000 rupees. So total you save around 2 lakh rupees. Plus you take a mediclaim for yourself for 25,000 rupees, and 50,000 rupees you can take for your parents. So that comes to close to around 3,75,000 rupees. And if you have a home loan, so the interest deduction on that could be around 2 lakh rupees. Plus, if you do donate some money somewhere, so that could be additional 25,000 rupees. So if we tend to add up everything, in addition to the standard deduction, which is now at 50,000 rupees, you can end up with a taxable income of 5 lakh rupees, even if your total income is around 10 and a half lakh rupees. So if we are able to properly manage our taxation, even with a 10 and a half lakh income, you can ensure that you have zero tax, right? So it's very important for you to then see how you do your investments, and how do you take your home loan, and also all those things will be the critical part to look at. Broadly speaking, if you look at the budget, since more than 50% of the people will get covered in terms of additional benefit, we see this budget to really help the government, come back to power in the coming election. It will really help them to garner more votes. And as a result of that, I think so that overall, if you look at the budget, market did not take it badly, despite there being some concern on the fiscal side. So overall, things look quite decent to us. And now we'll be happy to take some queries. The queries can come on YouTube as well, or we have a con call going on as well from our clients. So whoever is interested, we'll be happy to take any question if you have with regard to this particular budget. Moderator?
I repeat, at this time, participants, if you wish to ask a question, please press 7 and then star on the telephone keypad. The first questions come from Mr. Peter Singh. Your line is unmuted. You may go ahead. Yes, actually, I wanted to ask, why there was so much of negative movement in bank Nifty after the budget? And there was a positive news also regarding three banks, that was Bank of India, Central Bank of Commerce, and Bank of Maharashtra. So how was such a negative moment there was in the market?
So, so I think so. There are two things which were there with regard to how the bank Nifty was moving today. And if you could see that the Nifty was still in a positive territory despite the negativity by the bank Nifty. The reason for that was, one, there has been a concern with regard to the NBFC sector, where I'm sure you would have been aware that DHFL stock has been coming down drastically after the alleged expose of Cobra Post. So that is one of the reasons which is impacted some of these banks, because some of them may have some exposure to these companies. That was one of the talking points in the market. And the second reason was, as I told you earlier, that the bond yield has gone up because there is a risk going forward that fiscal deficit will not be met, and this 3.4% number which has been talked can go up to 3.5 or 3.6%. So bond yields, there will be a hit on the bond portfolio of these companies, and interest rates are not going to come down. With regard to the numbers which say SBI came out with, the numbers were fairly okay. There was slight miss which was there in the numbers, but nothing very major to be worried about. So going forward, our view is that things look quite decent overall, especially for the private sector banks. So we have been very bullish on Axis Bank, and that has played out very well for us. In fact, last 1 month, it is up by close to around 14%. So as such, we don't see any major reason, but clearly the stress which is there in the sector, that is impacting the performance of Bank Nifty from a short-term perspective. Thank you.
Hello. This is great for
Yeah, Jay, tell me please.
See, what is the impact on like digital market? These like counter this market like digital funds.
So I think so. Overall, the impact is quite positive because had the fiscal deficit number been 3.6%, that would have been taken really bad by the market. So that didn't happen. The kind of populist measures which the government was expected to take, that it has taken, but it has taken it to in a limited manner. So, say for example, the money which is being given to the marginal farmers, that total amount is close to 75,000 crore. If that number would have been more than 1 lakh crore, then that could have been taken negatively by the market. So I think so. It's a very balanced budget considering that it's an election year, and it also ensures that going forward, in case the BJP government does come back to power, they are likely to add up more seats because of this budget, because these kind of monetary benefits are being given to the lowest people in the lower strata, and even the middle class also has got some benefit from that angle. I think so. Overall, if you look at it, it seems to be quite a decent budget considering where we are sitting right now.
What will be the like digital trade market like target for the like digital market ability?
So
So
it's
any
very
estimate
difficult to
target
say
for
that. See,
the
the problem with Nifty is that around 11,000, we have seen that last couple of months there's been a big resistance which has happened, and it's very difficult for the index to go up beyond that. Only when it convincingly goes above 11,200, and then at that particular point of time, one should see where look at being very bullish, because till that level is breached, you know you are seeing continuous selling happening. Although we do believe that if you look at this particular quarter's numbers, they are very good. Still, we this year we'll probably still grow at 14 to 15%. So looking at that from next 1 year perspective, we are quite bullish, and a lot of mid cap stocks where we have seen stocks falling, we see a good reason to accumulate those stocks. So we are quite positive on the outlook going forward, despite the short term issues which currently are being there in the market.
what about like yes bank and NBFC space currently like you are
So if you talk about NBFC space, I think so stocks like say Bajaj Finance, the older NBFCs, if we talk about, those will continue to do pretty well. With regard to Yes Bank, I would say let things settle down better, because there's a divergence report which is likely to come going forward from the RBI. So we are looking for that, and only after we see the divergence report, then we would recommend people to go and buy Yes Bank. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Jay. And the next question comes from Mr. Sonu. Your line is unmuted.
Yeah, Mr. Sonu.
Hello, Mr. Sonu.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi. Can you
Good
ask
evening,
it?
sir. Good
Yeah.
evening. Yeah. No, I want to know what sectors you think will outperform after such a populist budget, and any stock specifics in the sectors that you recommend, which can
Okay.
later outperform with the market in the coming 1.5 years, 2 years down the line for me.
So if you ask me from a budget perspective, which is a sector which should do better going forward, it would be real estate. So I think so stocks like Godrej Properties, Oberoi, which typically are better quality names, should be the one we would recommend rather than going down in terms of quality. Other than that, I think so. If you look at it from a consumer angle, we believe close to around 1.3 lakh crore could be the additional fillip in terms of consumption over next 15 months, because of this all the announcement which have happened. And since these investments, these announcements are like 6,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees kind of numbers, 12,500 rupees. It is not something like 10 lakh, 20 lakh rupees. We see
Okay.
the real impact of that happening on the FMCG sector. So that could be one sector which should do well going forward. In terms of stocks, I think so. As we see an improvement in GDP and consumption improve, something like an ITC should be a good stock to look at, considering it's trading at around a 50% discount to its peers, like HUL. So there could be a upside in that stock. even stocks like Jubilant Foodworks, which came out with very decent numbers, 14 and a half, 5, 15% same store sales growth numbers. Those kind of stories also look quite exciting to us. So consumption is clearly the winner in terms of this particular budget in addition to real estate. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Another question for the mobile number and a last digit start 0891. Your line is unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hello, moderator. There's no
Hello?
voice. Yeah,
Hello?
yeah. Please ask.
Hello?
Yeah.
Going down after it.
So as I told you, there was some negative earlier. There was some negative in terms of fiscal deficit number that the government borrowing this year will for bonds will increase by close to around 35,000 crore, which is a negative for the banking sector. And in addition, there has been some stress on some of these banks because of now it's very hard to say, but obviously we have facing some issues with regard to DHFL, and that kind of stress is getting impacted with some of these banks. In terms of going forward, I think so. Bank Nifty going, especially the private sector banks, should do well. Clearly, in this particular quarter, we have seen that recoveries have improved, slippages has reduced. Gross NPA number for most of the banks are coming down. So we since the index 40% of the index going forward, we believe that whether you look at an HDFC bank or an Axis bank, so these kind of banks should do pretty well going forward. Very hard to for me to say from a very short term perspective, but yes, SBI should do well over next over a medium term, because we clearly saw in the numbers also that whether it's the gross NPA number or the slippages on most of the parameters, SBI is doing better than expectation now, and the cycle seems to be turning for the banking sector. But I would say please don't get into too many of these mid cap, small cap PSU banks, and banks which are getting out of BCA, and try to average on those kind of banks, because we don't know going forward what happens in terms of incremental NPAs with them. So we would, within the PSU space, would rather stick with only SBI rather than going down looking at these other PSU banks. Yeah, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, you can just announce once. There is somebody has asked a question on just we'll wait for a minute. I'll just answer something which has come on YouTube. A question which has come. What will be the impact of budget on the real estate and the housing finance companies? So I think so for the real estate sector, this budget is actually very good because, as we discussed earlier, for the developers, clearly on the unsold inventory, they not having to pay tax on the deemed rent. That would be a big positive for them. The second thing is, even for people who are buying a house, clearly, giving them a benefit on capital gains under Section 54. You see, that also is a big positive if you are looking at selling your own house and then buying two new houses, and you getting advantage on both up till an amount of 2 crores. So that's a good benefit for everyone. So I think so for real estate, it is clearly a good budget. There's no doubt about that. The second question which has come is, what about long-term capital gain and STT? So what I understand is that in terms of process, what's happening is the rates are same. In the stamp duty, which across states was different, and it was a tedious process in terms of compliance, that will get uniformly applicable across states. And then the center will disseminate whatever money they raise, give it to those states. So that is in a way, from operational perspective, it is a positive for for the brokers as well as for the clients. However, one needs to go into the fine print, because what I've read at one of the places is that it may be that till now people who were doing prop trading, they were not getting taxed because there were no contract note being generated, right? You need to pay a stamp duty when there's a contract note being generated, and since there is no contract note was being generated, they were not paying any stamp duty. Going forward, there is a possibility that there would be a for prop trading, there could be a stamp duty levied. I'm not 100% sure on that. In case that happens, then we could see a fall in terms of market volumes going forward, because 50% of the overall turnover which happens on the exchange happens through prop trading. So let's see what happens, the final word on that. Probably we'll get a clarification from the finance ministry over next couple of days on that. So that is the thing. I don't think so. Long-term capital gain would have, last year they had put at 10%. They would have gone back on that despite not getting the 11 lakh crore which they had expected. Seeing the fiscal situation where fiscal deficit is 3.4%. So that's the challenge which is there. So I think so. It would be futile to expect, the long-term capital gain going back to zero now going forward. Moderator, are there any other questions?
Yes, sir, we have one more question.
Sure.
The question comes from the line number 0282. Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
I have a question about the income tax query.
Okay.
Whatever you say, there is a 5 lakhs rupees nil tax income. So it is all included, what I have heard about. So I am not getting wrong that if there is an income of someone 10 lakh rupees, okay, so 5 lakh would be the nil income. Then you can take a 80C deduction
Right.
of 1,50,000.
Correct.
Then also you have 2 lakh rupees for the home loan interest. And after whatever the amount has been left, so what are the tax things would be on that income?
No. So you can
So
you can take see, you can take additional standard deduction of 50,000 rupees,
Yeah.
and then NPS of 50,000 rupees,
Yeah.
Mediclaim of 25,000 rupees for yourself, and for your parents you can take 50,000 rupees. So these are the ones. Now, assuming your income is not 5 lakh, it is 5 lakh 1,000. Okay. Then you have to pay that 12,500.
No.
So taxable income. No. It's not the case. No. It is not that way. So in case it is not that way, so they have not increased the slabs.
Yeah.
They have not increased the slab. They have given exemption. So your taxable income has to be 5 lakh rupees for you to get the tax benefit.
Okay. So who has what I understand is who has less than 5 lakh income, or it is about to 5 lakh income.
Taxable income. So
That person gets the benefit of this thing. If there is a higher slab income, okay, so there is no point of that thing.
Absolutely. So if your taxable income is 5 lakh 1 rupee, then that you will get.
Okay, then there is
No standard deduction. No, yeah. So I'm saying what he has done, that it's free slab, which what he said is rather than 2.5 lakh rupees, see, 2.5 zero, right? That he has increased it to 5 lakh only in the case that your taxable income is 5 lakhs. If your taxable income is 5 lakh 1 rupee, so then your tax will tax will not come down. Only benefit, incremental benefit which he has given to you this time is that the standard deduction has been increased from 40,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees. So the benefit of
suppose that the 10 lakh income is so he is getting he has to pay the income tax on 5 lakhs or he has to pay all the income tax on 10 lakhs.
10 lakhs.
Okay, so the 10 lakhs income has no benefit.
No, it has no benefit.
Okay, that was the benefit for all individuals who is taking the benefit of the ATC and home loan.
No.
Now it is like there is no benefit of state loan.
No. Those benefits are there. I think so. You're getting confused a little bit. See, what I'm saying.
What I am supposed to answer is कि अगर 10 लाख की कोई बंदे की इनकम हो, ओके, तो अगर उसमें से 5 लाख में निकाल दूं कि इस पे कोई टैक्सेबल इनकम
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं कर सकते आप ऐसा नहीं कर सकते। आपकी आप 10 लाख की इनकम है, उसमें से आप माइनस करिए 1.5 लाख रुपए जो एटीसी का पैसा है, वो सब माइनस कर करके अगर तो आपका टैक्सेबल इनकम 5 लाख के ऊपर रहा तो आपको कोई टैक्स में बेनिफिट नहीं हुआ है इस बजट में, एक्सेप्ट फॉर स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन, तो 10,000 रुपए से बढ़ी है। अगर आपका टैक्सेबल इनकम 5 लाख से कम है, ठीक है, 10 लाख में से आपने बाकी सब डिडक्शन मिल गई, होम लोन का इंटरेस्ट हो गया, वो सब करके अगर आपका 5 लाख से कम है तभी आपको 12,500 रुपए का एडिशनल बेनिफिट मिलेगा। ठीक है, चलिए, थैंक यू। Sure, moderator, we can conclude the call now.
That does conclude our conference for today. Thank you for participating. You may all disconnect now. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thanks a lot to people who have joined us on YouTube as well. This brings the end to our post-budget analysis. See you next time. Thank you.